Welcome back, everybody, to episode 67 of Two Goalies, One Mic. I am Duane Steinel, joined here without Cully. Unfortunately, he's on the ice tonight, couldn't make it, but fear not, we do have a special guest, not a guest host, but just a guest, good friend of myself and the program. We have Denny Canfield, former junior scout, junior coach, very well connected in the junior hockey community, very good friend, also owner and lead at 716 Sports Management. If you want to get a hold of him, just reach out to him on any of his social media platforms at Denny Canfield, as you can see right there on the screen, at Denny, Denny, Canfield, Canfield, or just email him at 716sportsmanagement at gmail.com. Denny, thanks for joining me, man. I know we've tried a few times to get this done. Thanks for the patience, buddy.
Hey, no problem. Hey, by the way, still Two Goalies, One Mic, right? Former goaltender
That's right.
as well.
That's right. That's right.
So a lot of the alumni back in the house here, and so it's exciting to get a chance to come on and have a talk with you. Enjoy the show.
Absolutely, man. And again, thanks for coming on with us. Again, I appreciate it. It's unfortunate that Cully could not join us. But with that being said, again, man, I appreciate it. One of the things we are here to talk about, first and foremost, and I think is bigger than hockey in itself, obviously, is Matiss Kivlenieks, your former friend, and you coached him in junior hockey. You helped really bring him along in hockey. You're obviously his story has really captured the hearts of a lot of the hockey community around the country, around North America, around the world. Let's be real. He was a native of Latvia. He's really, his story is really captivating. And you're one of the guys who had a very close personal relationship coming into into the league. And, you helped him get to where he ended up, coming in, maturing and becoming a professional goaltender. So I just wanted to kind of give you the stage here to help you tell his story, because, it's a story that needs to be told.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's, it's a tough time. Obviously, here we are just, it's been a week since his passing, and still some details kind of coming in from Columbus, about the, the services and different things. And, I feel for his mother having to, his family having to come over from Riga.
No, go ahead. My TV randomly turned on. I apologize. I could hear it in the background.
Right.
What was going on?
No worries. No worries. We'll just. But no, just talking about it's been a tough week, and obviously words can't really put into properly display emotion or anything like that for how everybody's feeling right now, especially myself. But tough time. Like I said, we're trying to figure out what's going on in Columbus. Obviously, his mom's overseas trying to get over here from Latvia. It's such a tough time for her and her family. But this thing with Matiss, I was real privileged to have a chance to kind of coach him and befriend him and take him into the goalie guild that we all share and love, and the passion for the position. And I the first day I ever saw him was I think early 2014, and got a chance to see him in Minneapolis. I was actually took a job out in Minnesota. There was a couple of jobs at the time that I was looking at out in Minnesota, and junior jobs, and walked into a rink. He was playing a playoff game for the Edina Lakers at the time, and this big, tall, lanky kid. I walked in and met the owner, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to watch the game. I'll talk to you after the game." And we'll kind of see. And I was kind of leaving halfway through that game.
I love that story.
To take another job, right? And then, or to interview for another job. And when I was kind of sitting there, maybe a couple seconds in, 30 seconds into watching this game, this kid's just unreal. And the next thing I know, I kind of turned to the folks that I was with, and I was like, this kid's going to play in the National Hockey League. And it was just one of those moments. I'll never forget it. Watched the rest of the first period, walked downstairs, walked up to the owner, and just said, "Hey, this kid's unbelievable. He's going to play in the National Hockey League. I don't know who this kid is or where he came from, but if this kid comes back, I'll take this job." And and the rest is history. We got him to re-sign and come back, and we were really blessed to have him. I think that second year he played 33 games for us, was an all-star. Ended up going over to Latvia. Excuse me, I think they went to, I want to say somewhere, maybe it was Turkey. I think Asiago is where they were. Excuse me, and
Yep.
won a world championship, propelled his U20 team into the top division with the Americans. The guy was MVP and player of the game, and just and then the secret was out about how special this kid was, but. I had a chance to spend a lot of time with him personally, and he actually, lived with me, later on in the season, and we trained together. And, then he ended up actually went from Tier 3 hockey to an NHL rookie camp. And, he went to Waterloo in the USHL, and Waterloo skated with him, and they ended up not taking him. And to this day, I still joke around with Steve Howard, my good friend who's coaching the Austin Bruins now in the North American League, that he ended up going to the USHL a few years later as the MVP and beat Waterloo. And I always joke with Steve, and he always says, yeah, we probably should have taken him. But just a special kid, Duane. And, I was blessed and privileged to have known the young man and spent a lot of time with him, very close with him. And, it's really hard I know everybody in the hockey world, because he's such a great personality, a big smile, all the things that you hear in the NHL, Nick Foligno and all these guys talking about, and Elvis, these guys, his teammates, how great of a teammate he was. He was just a great person, and big smile and gregarious personality is kind of how I like to say that. Great teammate and just a great person. And, I'm fond of, we laugh about the moments you and I have talked off camera about some of the things that, he lived with me and some of the fun things he did. And, I've seen these quirky pictures of him in the gym, and just, he was always smiling and doing dumb things. And, he was just really important to me and my family. My dad was there, and my good friend Scott Halverson were there when he made his AHL debut. I got a chance to see him in Buffalo. When he got a chance, he called me, making his debut or second start, against Buffalo. Got a chance to be there for that. Drove through the night to get there, and just special times with a special kid. I was there when he lost Game 7 of USHL. How excited he was when, he called to tell me he was signing with Columbus. I got a chance to be a part of that before anybody else knew, when they all flew down. We kind of talked about that the other day, and what a special moment for me. And I did kind of pick on him a little bit. When we lost Game 7, I think they lost to Chicago Steel in 17. He was the MVP and unanimous goalie of the year that year. But I think a fourth liner had taken a shift, in like 3 periods, jumped off the bench and threw a C&I puck through a leg and beat him in overtime. And kind of like to pick on him a little bit about that over the years. But special talent, special kid, and definitely destined to be an all-star down in the near future. Unfortunately, this tragedy kind of derailed that, obviously, and it's really sad.
It is, and I've been scrolling through these pictures that you personally sent me, and one of the things that I've heard through a lot of the interviews, and just obviously seeing the pictures, is the first thing you do notice about him, outside of just the size, is that smile, that blonde hair and that smile. And he's just like, I've seen videos, his reaction to his first NHL win against the Rangers, just everything. The kid just smiled, and he was happy, and he was humble, and he was, he felt fortunate to be where he was, and he wasn't taking things for granted, and he was really taking it in moment by moment. And I remember me and you were golfing. We were going to go golfing when you got the news, and you could really see it in just the way you reacted, because obviously there's no way to react to something like that.
No.
Like you said, he lived with you for a short period of time, and you helped discover the type of talent that he was, and you were the first guys in North America to see how talented he was. It's just, you saw in your reaction and just the passion you were showing through that reaction, like how great of a kid this was.
Yeah. It's really tough. I think, because he was more like a son to me, right? Like I think, coaches build relationships with goaltenders and all their players, really. But I think at our level, at the junior level, he's a kid that came over from Latvia, paid to play 2 years in a row. And within 2 years later, he's in the USHL and he's going to the National Hockey League. It just doesn't happen, right? It's a very unheard of story. Took the longest route possible to get here, got cut from multiple North American League teams. And to see him achieve his goals and such, and then be so close, right? This year he was going to be a number 2 in Columbus. Obviously his best buddy is Elvis, and he lived with him and his wife. And, probably one of those guys, him or Corpy, would have been traded this year, and Matiss would have probably taken that second rung and really been an everyday NHL guy. to see that cut short. And obviously you were there when in the early moments of that. It was devastating.
Yeah.
24 years old, just a kid. I just talked to him a few weeks ago. He's always asking how my dad's doing. Obviously, he showed that one picture of my dad and I. Gave my dad the hard hat after we beat the Rochester Ice Hawks. I think as we all get older and we grow up, and we have families of our own and such. When you don't have family of your own, and even when you do, you take some of these kids, and they become like your own, and you take them under your wing, and to see him achieve his NHL dreams, and then to see it ripped down so abruptly on something that really was a freak accident that it had nothing to do with him. He had no control over. It's devastating. And spent a lot of time this week in the national media talking about who he was as a person. And he was the same at 16, 17 as he is at 24 and that smile. And like Nick said, he just loved being in the National Hockey League. He loved chasing his dreams. And, I think that shows the kind of person he was. He never forgot where he came from, treated, the players at our level and the coaches at our level all the same. And, he was the kind of guy that treated the equipment guy the same as the head coach all the way through. And, someone working in the, a secretary with the club or someone doing the travel, he was always just really polite, fun to be around. And he just really enjoyed his life.
Yeah. That's, again, you've heard that saying so many times. Those are the people you want to associate yourselves with. Those are the people you want to work for, the people who treat the janitor as well as they do like the CEO. You know what I mean? Like, guys who make the rounds around the building, say hello to everybody, ask them how their family's doing, how their kid's doing. And just like you said, that's the type of kid Matiss was. He was interested in you as a person.
Yeah.
And, that's what made me lock onto the story more so than the fact that it was a fellow goaltender, and not more so than the fact that it was somebody that was important to you. It was just, again, you don't ever expect somebody of his age to ever lose their life this early, but just to have it. Yeah. Just, a friend of the program here, Sean, from Point Shot podcast. He's up. You never, he lost his life before he really gets started. You're going, and there was a lot to feel good about when it came to Matiss and just the direction he was heading. I know at the expansion draft there was a lot. Is Columbus going to trade Korpisalo or Elvis? Are they gonna expose a guy like Matiss? But regardless, man, whoever ended up with Matiss was going to end up with an absolute guy who could play in this league for 12 to 15 years and be a very good starting goaltender.
Yeah, I thought he was a guy that was destined to be an NHL All-Star. And to be quite frankly honest, I think John Davidson and his staff probably knew that down there too. And they had an abundance of goalies there. Look, selfishly, I was hoping he'd come to Buffalo, right? I mean, it's been a long time since we've had a number one here. And, since Ryan Miller, and no disrespect to the guys that we've had come through here over the years, I'm from Buffalo like you, and we're passionate about Buffalo sports.
Mm-hmm.
I was really excited to hopefully see him come here because I knew what he would bring to that locker room and such. And, I talked with, Mitch Korn, longtime NHLer, Stanley Cup champion. I grew up training with Mitch, and Mitch has been with some of the best coaches in the NHL. And, and he flat out told me, he said, look, he's a guy that he probably doesn't go in the expansion draft. They probably trade one of those guys and he would have been an everyday guy in the NHL. And that's a guy I value, right? I value his opinion. And they all talk, all those coaches talk. And, so at the end of the day, to kind of, the sad part is he was available, right? Like I think that, there was some behind the scenes scuttlebutt back there kind of talking about, through some people that I knew, hey, is this kid going to come to Buffalo and whatnot? But to me, he was a guy that a franchise could have really built around. Didn't come with the baggage, didn't come with the ego, didn't come with those type of things. And I really think that would have been somebody that, yes, he could fit in anywhere, but especially at Buffalo, I think he would have made a really good fit in that locker room when we really need some leadership like that at this time. Absolutely.
You hit the nail on the head there too, with the fact that we've been lacking a goaltender since Ryan Miller left, and does not. I think I mentioned to you the number of goalies that have started for this franchise since we traded away Miller. It's like close to 30. When the number between Hasek and Miller was 4. Mm-hmm. So it was a position I've always thought we were pretty spoiled that for a long time, close to 3 decades. And then, we obviously hold that position to such a high standard because we had such great goaltending for such a long time.
Absolutely.
And your bridge between Hasek and Miller was Marty Baron. You know what I mean? And we still had Baron while we had Miller. And it's just, you haven't had that answer. And you think about a kid like Matiss and what he's like, his ceiling and what he could have given to a franchise, and just, every single game he's going to play his heart out, because he's he's humble.
Yeah, he's
and
hungry.
He's just happy. Yeah, he's happy to be there, and he's going to work hard. He's going to give it out everything he has at every practice.
And I think he too, Duane. He worked. Listen, I don't know how everyone else feels about it in Buffalo, but I've always been a really big John Tortorella fan, and Torts either love him or hate him. But Matiss, worked hard for him, and I think Torts really brings puts the pedal to the metal on guys and tries to bring the best out of them early in their career until they can mature into really good pros. But he just came with very little baggage and just had an excellent work ethic about him and appreciation. Nothing handed to him, but he learned from 2 really good goaltenders in Alvis and Corpy, and guys that are bona fide starters on any teams in the National Hockey League. I think we can all agree on that. And, so he had a really good pedigree in front of him, and to learn from and to kind of take that torch and go on and do his own thing. And, the thing about Matiss was he's not prototypical. He's a decent sized kid. But he was tall and lanky. He had great edge work, could get across the crease, was real good in RVH, had good hips, he had a lot of flexibility in his lower body, and he was really good on battling for pucks. And I think in today's game, the lateral game, East and West game, and being so technical, that was the type of goaltender that I thought we needed to get here in Buffalo and anywhere else. So, but that his feet were, the term NHL feet, right? That's a term that goalie guys use, right? And he had NHL feet the day I saw him, and everybody just missed him. And listen, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here, but when that kid was the best player on the ice in any game we ever went to, anytime I ever coached that team. And that's not always the case. Usually there's a better player or maybe a goaltender here, but we had an advantage just walking in the rink because we had that guy. And someday we're going to find that here in Buffalo, boys. But unfortunately, it's not going to be with Matiss, and that's sad. But but he was something special.
He was too. Just looking at his numbers here, we'll go back to 2006, 2017 with the Sioux City Musketeers, 1.85 goals against in 49 games played. The next year in the AHL with the Cleveland Monsters. It's his first year pro. So,
ton of games.
A ton of games, 43 games played, 3.21 goals against, a 900 save percentage. Then at the internet, he goes back to Cleveland again the following year, roughly right around the same year, but in the ECHL the next year with Kalamazoo, 2.7 goals against. Columbus played 6 games, a 2.9 goals against, and a 900 save percentage. Not bad for your first 6 games in the National, man. And especially, again, on a team with Columbus, who's always kind of back and forth with how good they are in the National. Just they always seem like they're on the cusp, but never really. They're a John Tortorella coached hockey team. And I think over the last 5-6 years, these elite hockey players, they don't really appreciate, I guess, his style of coaching, which again, is debatable. I like Tortorella myself.
Sure.
I know, like you said, not many people are a big fan, but you know what? The kid performed admirably in his first year pro in 6 games played, went back to the AHL with Cleveland, took what he learned, in 20 games at 2.9 goals against. And then in Latvia, really outshined in the World Championship.
Absolutely.
And had a 2-0
shut out Canada this year.
Yep.
In the World.
2.18 goals against, a 922 save percentage. Absolutely monster numbers for a kid of his age, and a kid that was going places. He was.
And when he was with Sioux City, he got taken. It's a rarity. He got took, I think, 5th or 6th overall, and the Sioux City traded up to get him. Knew some guys inside that association that had been friends of the program that we were with before, I think, and traded up to get him behind the scenes quietly, and I think 5th or 6th overall, and they traded their picks to get up just to grab him, and then he ends up being a unanimous goaltender and player of the year. And to my knowledge, I don't think that ever happened in the USHL. And I think he's one of only 2 Sioux City guys to go directly from there into an NHL deal. So don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty positive that last statement. But I mean, either way, I mean, unanimous player of the year and goaltender of the year. Obviously Columbus flew down, obviously John Davidson and the entire staff, they flew in there to meet him, and, he signs that 4-year deal, and, he was coming up on a contract year. And I think that Columbus was really ready to say, okay, we're ready to give this kid, an opportunity to run with it. And that's why they gave him that, the bump games at the end of the season. Yeah, there were throwaway games against Detroit there, but, the kid worked hard. He deserved it. And, he played pretty well in those 2 games. And, he was really looking forward to, when you look at his last interviews, he was really looking forward to what this next year was going to bring for him. And, it's just disappointing that a talent and a star like that's kind of burned out so early and tragically.
I agree, man. It's, again, really, you look at all the stories that were shared this week or this past 2 weeks.
Yep.
And just, you see Elvis's message, all the heartfelt things he had to say about Kivy, and all the shrines that were made for him. It's just, it's really heartbreaking, man.
Yeah.
And it's not even just as a goalie, just as a human being, to see somebody's life cut so short, man. And it's just,
and you know what, too, Duane, that's so typical of the hockey world and our hockey community, how small it is, and the people showing up in droves, and, the moments of silence, and obviously NHL. And I think people from around the world can really feel the pain that the people that really loved him and cared about him.
Mm-hmm.
I feel for the Columbus Blue Jackets and that staff and those people there, and not just because they lost a goaltender, but because of, they lost a friend. They lost someone that was close to them, part of their family. I mean, hockey's a big family. I know other sports are close too, but, I've been coached for 15 years, scouted at every level. And, when you lose somebody like that so close to you, John Davidson said it best, it's going to stay with them forever. And, it'll either be a moment for Columbus to rally around next year, or it'll hang with them and kind of weigh them down. And that's something that hopefully that locker room can figure out, and the maturity of the veteran guys in there, and, the Cam Atkinsons of the world and the Folignos of the world can kind of, take that with them, but, and help the team through it. But I'll tell you what, it's heartfelt. It's hard pressed to put it all into words. And then you see all these, the memorials and the different things and the stories. And Elvis, this is the first summer, to my knowledge, even in talking to Matiss, that he stayed here. Usually he would go back to Latvia. His mom lives in Riga and stuff. And, people don't know this, but I think there's just over 1.5 million people that live in Riga. There's a very small country, or Latvia, excuse me. It's a very small country. And, so this was the first summer he was living with Elvis. He's staying here, and obviously going up to train up in Detroit there, with his coaches. So it's it's you don't know how to put it into words, right? Like we're going golfing, on a with a bunch of buddies, and then my fiance calls to tell me that hey, I got bad news, and I was terrified, and then that gets dropped on you, and it still weighs really heavy. I mean, the national media is called, all these things. Obviously, the Columbus Dispatch, I think we were talking about it earlier, is going to put a story out, I think on Wednesday.
Yep.
It usually is an 800 to 1,000 words, and this thing is going to be 4,000 words. I mean, that's how important it was to the people down there and his story. And, and one other thing, like, let's think about it. All the kids that watch your show, or anybody that watches your show, like, every kid wakes up every day and says, I want to play in the National Hockey League. I lived that dream. So did you. And so did everybody else.
Yep.
And, we chased those dreams around, and, this kid lived that dream, right? I mean, he paid to play Tier 3 junior hockey for 2 years, and within 2 years signs a $2.5 million contract with the Columbus Blue Jackets. It's a story that's unheard of at any level. He's not just an undrafted free agent, because, he didn't go to the Division I route, right? And people forget that. He had a Division I offer at Minnesota State Mankato. And he just chose not to do that, go the other route. But I mean, man, Tier 3 hockey to the NHL, he was something special.
Yeah. And again, I'm kind of like scrolling right now through all these pictures, trying to, I'm trying to bring up right now. Here we go. Finally got it. His first start here in Buffalo.
I took that picture. Yeah.
I was trying to find it there. Just, how important that moment must have been for you, obviously,
Yeah.
to be able to see him, don a Blue Jackets jersey in person,
In
realize that
Buffalo.
in Buffalo, exactly.
I got a call the night before. I kind of picked on him when he had made a start versus the Rangers because it was kind of a spot start, right? And you see the videos out there. He wasn't expecting to make that start versus the Rangers, and he kind of there were some injuries there, and it kind of threw him into the fire. I didn't get a chance to unfortunately go to that game. I did pick on him afterward. Hey, I wish you would have given me a heads up. He's like, I barely knew. And so when he was making the start with Buffalo, he was on basically a few hours. I think it was a 3-hour flight. Torts told him, and I think it was 10:30 at night, and I was actually on the bench coaching a junior game, and he reached out to me and says, "Hey, I'm going to go tomorrow at noon in Buffalo." And I turned to the guys on our bench and other staff. I said, I got to get there, and I drove through the night to get home and was at that game, and I took that picture. And of course, we all remember it's the only time I ever wanted Buffalo to lose, Duane. The only time, right? I'm a huge Bills Sabre guy. It's the only time I want them to lose. And Eichel in OT. Actually, Columbus was up 1-0 late, and then I think I can't remember who tied it for the Sabres, but Eichel ended up scoring that goal where he walked off the high circle in overtime and wired one over his shoulder, and it was the only time I was ever kind of upset that Buffalo would win. It's the only time I'd ever wanted him to lose. I wanted the kid to get a W with me being there, but no, it was really special. To get a chance to get there to see him, and but at the end of the day, like any other proud coach, I think it means a lot more based on that it was in Buffalo, and my family and I got a chance to at least say, hey, that's our kid, right? That's our guy, and and that's really important to coaches and stuff, and and all the people that love them and cared about them. There wasn't a more deserving person in the entire world to get this opportunity.
No, you're not wrong there, man. And I actually remember a couple of those games he played, because when you're a Buffalo Sabres fan, you kind of become you're kind of forced to just follow hockey as a whole, because your team just becomes unbearable to watch. And I remember I've always been so jealous of the system of goaltenders that Columbus has had. Honestly, starting with Korpisalo and Elvis, and then leading right down to Matiss. Just like I always man, there's no way they're going to hold on to all three of those guys. Like Buffalo needs to be all over that. It's just, it was so disappointing. And now obviously that kind of throws Columbus into a little bit of a jam, because I'm assuming they were planning on either exposing Matiss or keeping him around and trading one of those two guys. And now they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place there.
I really think they would have probably traded one of their guys first. I think there's a high market value for Corpy, a bona fide Juan and Elvis. I think they're guys out there. And if you know that Matiss is going to be ready to be a number two, you're going to be able to kind of put him in and, plug him in as a 2 and get some value out of, of a high level prospect that you have, and then kind of rebuild your system. But it was, let's be honest, if Seattle had a shot at him, or maybe Columbus made a deal with Seattle where, people forget this, maybe they make a deal with them. Hey, don't take any of our guys, and we'll do this and we'll do that for you. You never know, right, behind the scenes how that all works. Because then that way they have trade capital and could go out and make some moves. But like I said, I talked with Mitch Corin after the evening a couple nights after passed away, and he flat out told me, he's like, I don't think he would have went to Seattle. I think he'd have been a number 2, and they would trade one of the other guys. So that's coming from one of the best in the business, and like I said, I really value his opinion on that.
Yeah, and like I said, any child of the corn. Honestly,
that's right.
That's right.
How
you put it. Yeah, if you're a child of the corn, you're always
guys.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in your Western New York.
Sure.
But transitioning from that, obviously, I wanted to spend as much time as we possibly could on that.
And I appreciate that, and I think you would appreciate that as family would too.
I wanted to give you your stage here and make sure that you had. Because I know how passionate you are about him and just his career, and just, that meant a lot to me. And I'm so happy we were able to have this conversation.
I appreciate that.
Transition to that, before we wrap up here, I definitely want to go into, obviously today was full of a lot of NHL news. You saw Duncan Keith traded to the Edmonton Oilers, where Edmonton, for some reason, had to give up, Caleb Jones and a pick for Duncan Keith.
Crazy.
Blackhawks won on that one, in my opinion. They get rid of the contract and they gain assets. You saw that. You saw Pierre McGuire hired as, I think, senior VP of player development for Ottawa. I know Pierre McGuire gets a lot of crap for for maybe his on-air antics or some of his catchphrases and whatnot. But I think it's a great hire by Ottawa, in my opinion. Also, bigger news: the parade in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, Tampa Bay, man.
Tampa Bay. And,
no, I'm not wearing blue for any other reason. I'm just because I'm a blue guy. But Tampa Bay, man.
Tampa Bay back-to-back winning the cup. Obviously, those fans down in Tampa Bay in Florida, very, very, very spoiled.
Yeah.
Unfortunate for Montreal. It was just, they were just too much, man. 18 million over the cap or not, even if they were at the cap, that team was just too good.
Yeah, I don't know if the thing is in the NHL. I mean, people forget, right? That rule's been in place since 2000, I think 5, right? It's not like that rule just came up, right? So you can't, listen. Was he hurt? Yeah, sure he was. There were some injuries there, and look at good on them. They got. I mean, he's one of the best in the world. I think 2017, MVP, right? If I'm not mistaken, or 19, and good on them. But Tampa Bay was so deep, right? I mean, they're the only team in the NHL that, they had 4 lines that could score, right? They had 6, 7 D that could play. Their left-handed D were superior, which added a ton of versatility on the power play and the special teams. And let's be honest, Vasilevsky is the best goaltender in the world right now.
Yep,
I mean, based on how he played. And, and so I mean, on that, right, we kind of had talked earlier in the series, it was a disappointing, Stanley Cup final. I know, especially for the folks in Montreal. And listen, we all grew up here in Buffalo, the Sabres, the Bruins, the old rivalries, and I was happy to see that Canada had a team in the finals again, first time since '92, right? And so, it's just one of those things where, I just think that they've got some work to do. They got some young guns in Montreal. Caulfield and those guys are going to be really darn good hockey players. Carey Price, 14 years in the league, a little long in the tooth. I know how much you respect him and want to, view his game, but he just wasn't good in that series, and
not good enough.
No disrespect to the guy that I think is a surefire Hall of Famer, but there were some saves he's got to have back, and listen, I always told you, we've talked off, Grant Fuhr was a great goaltender. I know you had Grant on this show before, but Gretzky and those guys all tell you it wasn't because Grant would stop every puck. It's when he made his saves, right? It's what's the next save is the most important save, and I just didn't think the Canadians got that from Carey in that series, and I think that Tampa was way too much. Their power play was excellent. Created a lot of second and third chances. And listen, Montreal didn't score a lot of goals going into that series either. And to be quite frankly honest with you too, looking at the teams that Montreal played coming out, obviously, look, they were better than the teams they played in the Canadian division, and then they finally run into a pretty darn good club. And I wouldn't say better, but I didn't think I thought they were better than Winnipeg, and and then you see they had a good series against Vegas there, but Mark Stone, let's be honest, didn't show up in that series, and I think if Mark Stone shows up in that series, then probably Vegas goes to the Stanley Cup, and that was a matchup I really wanted to see. I don't know about the rest of your viewers, but listen, Carey's an all-world goaltender, and he'll be back, but they got to add some more offense around him. Corey Perry's 1,000 years old. Stalzy's old. They got a lot of guys out there, veteran players, and good locker room guys. But they got to find ways to start putting pucks in the net. And when you take the look at it, we look at Tampa Bay. When Stamkos can be Stamkos and Kucherov can be Kucherov, and Braden Point's playing well, and some of these guys, and you got a Hedman back there. I mean, and everybody does their role, and everybody picks up their slack in a timely manner. That's a Stanley Cup champion, right? And would it really surprise you or if any of your viewers, me, you, or whoever, if Tampa Bay won 3 in a row? It wouldn't surprise me one bit. So that's where that is. And as far as the Duncan Keith thing, I like Duncan Keith, but I think that contract was extremely overloaded. I think it's a good move for Chicago. Definitely surprised. I know you said that too. You were like, "Whoa, this is crazy here." But I think it's probably good for both parties. But man, I always enjoyed Duncan Keith. He's a true champion. And love to see him continue his career out there in Edmonton. But and then as far as Pierre McGuire goes, like Pierre's a different guy. But I got to tell you, people may say the things they say about him, and he's the way he addresses people, or his jokes, or his drop-ins, or whatever you want to say. But the guy knows hockey, and one thing I do know is he's very passionate, and he's also very heartfelt, and you can see that. And anybody that he's got great relationship with a lot of people, and I think he's going to do a heck of a job there. People forget he used to be the GM of the Hartford Whalers, if I'm not mistaken. He was their last GM back in the day, and GM and head coach, I think he was at one point. But I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do there. I'm disappointed to not see him on NBC anymore. Maybe he's going there, Duane, because NBC doesn't carry the playoffs anymore, or carry the NHL contract.
I know ESPN has that big contract.
So maybe the ESPN didn't want to hire him, and he's looking at this as a chance to transition in his career. But hey, wish him well either way. But I always think of I always go back to the Rob Ray and him meme right there in the locker, in between the stalls there. It always makes me laugh. But hey, I don't have a problem with Pierre, and I wish him the best of luck.
Yeah, I've had friends that have had correspondence with Pierre McGuire, and they've all had nothing but good things to say. And he's a great hockey mind, and you know what, he's on the. I think Ottawa's on the verge of something really special there. They have a lot of young talent. I'm not a big fan of Matt Murray as the goalie, but you know what? It's been proven so many times in the past that if you build the right team in front of your goaltender, you can win with above average goaltending. You don't need elite goaltending to win Stanley Cups. You don't need a Vasilevsky. You don't need a Carey Price. Chicago's a perfect example. They have 3 cups with Antti Niemi and Corey Crawford.
And ask Minnesota how they feel about Corey Crawford, because I'm pretty sure Minnesota got put out of the playoffs 5 years in a row, or 4 out of 5 years, by Corey Crawford, and everybody's Corey bleeping Crawford. Well, he got the job done and made the plays when he needed to make the plays, and he's got some Stanley Cup rings to prove it.
That's true. That's right. Just real quick, obviously they went on their boat parade here today. Go over quick. I know that one's a little blurry, but that's probably the type of same blur they were seeing all day today.
I love it.
A lot of stuff.
Great shirt.
Yeah.
18 million over.
Yeah, love it. And then there's Kucherov in his post-game interview. The fans in Montreal acted like they won the Stanley Cup last game. Are you kidding me? Their final was last series. You love to see it. And then this picture right here is amazing.
Greatest picture ever.
Oh my God, that's unbelievable. The Lince.
Hey, I gotta tell you this. Now, I sent you that picture on request from I saw that posted on my good friend, not to take any credit away from my good friend Ian Braun, used to play for me. So Bronner, if you ever catch this, I snapped her off your Facebook and sent her over to Duane, because it's one of my all-time favorites. But correct me if I'm wrong. Tom Brady did say he can't throw the Stanley Cup from one boat to another.
No, you can't. That's too big of a trophy. And I think hockey fans around the world would lose their collective minds.
That's right.
If, you're throwing the. And then this is my favorite picture right here.
Oh, that's great. I didn't see that till just now. It's the first time I've seen that.
Vasilevsky wearing the Conn Smythe as a helmet. That is unbelievable.
Awesome. Hey man, listen, when you go down when you're Tampa Bay and you win 3 titles inside of 12 months, you can pretty much do whatever
the hell you want. Yeah,
and good for them, man. Have a few pops and and do whatever it is you do down there and stuff. And we all know Tom Brady was somewhere in around there. And I don't know about you guys. I don't know how I feel about that. So, Tom, you be safe out there. But if you hurt your ankle or something, being dumb walking on the dock, I don't think anybody here in Buffalo would bitch or complain.
Absolutely. But, again, this has been, thanks again, Denny, for joining.
Anytime.
I don't want to keep you here for too long. Again, rest in peace, Matiss. Rest in peace, Kivy. Unbelievable kid. I'm so happy we were able to get here on talk a little bit of the Stanley Cup here.
Well, Duane, one thing I want to touch on that we talked about before, we didn't get a chance to talk about it, and I think it'd be fun to just kind of talk about it, is I don't know if you've touched on previous shows, and forgive me if you have, but just re-bringing this up about the Donnie Granato hire. Wanted to kind of touch on that for a second and
we can do it for a second.
Your take on that and what you think.
I like it. I think Don Granato, he really was able to get through to some of these players, and I think the best case he made for himself for head coach was definitely Casey Middlestad. His reemergence into being a serviceable top 6 player. I think that right there is what is probably the biggest case he made for himself, and just his history in player development, especially in the U.S. National Development Program. He's got a great resume, so I was fine with the hire. The only other guy I wanted over Donnie Meatballs was probably Andre Torrini, who obviously was recently signed by Arizona to be their head coach. I was a big fan of Torrini and the Ottawa 67s and Team Canada. I thought he, just like Donnie, knows how to get through to those younger kids. So
yeah,
I'm happy with the Don Granato signing.
Yeah, I would say that I don't think it's a bad hire, right? I have an interesting take on it. I do, and maybe your listeners agree or disagree. I've been asked a lot, obviously what I think about it. Listen, Donnie Granato is a good hire, but I think that Kevin Adams really forced to kind of take him, right? Because Donnie did so well. How do you let that guy go? You kind of got to take him, because if he hires someone else and that guy fails, everybody in Buffalo is going to say, "Why don't you take Donnie Granato?" So that's my only take on that. He's a great player development guy. The guys really like playing for him. You're right on Casey Middlestead. I will say this. I think Casey should have stayed. Yeah, Darlene too. You did mention that. But I do think that Casey's biggest problem was he left the U too early, right?
He should have stayed in Minnesota. I've said that 100 times. He should have stayed in Minnesota.
You and I have never talked about that. We both agree on that. So, but hey, listen, I hope he does well here in Buffalo. Welcome to Buffalo, Donnie. And, I think Kevin made a safe hire there. If it doesn't work, he can go back to the drawing board.
And at least he went through the process too. Like you said, he went through the process. He knows, he knows some of the names, and he went off the board. Some people would say it was off the board, but he didn't hire a Rick Tocchet, like a kind of retread head coach, like a Bruce Boudreau. Nothing against those guys, but I think
Bruce is 70 years old. I mean, he would have been the oldest coach in the NHL. Would have liked to have seen him go after Nate Lehman down in Providence. There's a name I like. Nate's connected out there with Seth Appert as well, our good Rochester guy, good development guy, another USA type guy. So maybe there's a connection there with Donnie. I don't know, but listen, either way, hey, hopefully the Sabres get this thing turned in the right direction. And we got all summer. So if you ever want to call me back again, we can go on there and talk about it all summer.
I can't wait, man. I hope we can have you on as a consistent reoccurring guest. I love talking to Denny. And let's get on the golf course soon, buddy.
Absolutely.
Again, guys, thank you, Denny Canfield. If you want to get at him, his handle on Twitter is right there at Denny Canfield, DENNYCANFIELD, or at 716sportsmanagement@gmail.com. I know that's a big company. We have another episode to talk about that in the future. But I can't wait for the opportunities that are come here with you, Denny, and I appreciate you coming on and talking about Matiss's story.
Anytime, man. All right. Enjoy the show. I'll be in touch. Thanks very much.
Absolutely, everybody. This has been episode 67 of Two Goalies, One Mike signing off. We have a huge guest on tap this week. We expect to have on, as a surprise, projected first overall pick Owen Power is expected to be on the show this week with Two Goalies, One Mike. Yep. Cannot wait. Should be a blast. Can't wait to talk to Owen. So that'll be on tap. Just stay tuned. We'll have it up here sometime this week. And until next time, you guys enjoy your week.